everybody else. Thanks for coming and joining us. I just want to let you know that I want to be taking this direction of a talk more of an acquisition standpoint, looking at how to acquire users in China, not necessarily a production or producing the game out there, which Peter has already covered. So, Kabam has published 2 games in China, Marvel Contest of Champions and Transformers Forged to Fight. We first launched the game of Map Marvel in December of 2014. We localized it in China in January of 2017. Since then, China has become a top 5 revenue region for us. We have over 125 champions. We support 17 languages, including simplified and traditional Chinese. The only place that we're not currently live is China Android, and you've already heard how big of a challenge that is, but we're working on that. Transformers Forged to Fight launched in April of 2017 worldwide. Again, we're not live in Android China yet. We have over 37 bots, and over 500 million fights have been completed. Both of these games also won some prestigious awards, such as the Apple Editor's Choice, as well as the Google Play Editor's Choice and Game of the Year. So let's jump right into the marketing aspect. So some very high-level checklists when you want to look at UA when approaching the Chinese market. So obviously the basics, it has to abide by the guidelines. You don't want to have any drug influences, themes, excessive violence or politics. That's the basic stuff. The next question, are you going to publish on iOS and or on Android? Are you going to run with a publisher, or are you not going to get a publisher? For the iOS, we were able to self-publish this game. Finally, other basics such as the app and app store localization keywords, just making sure that you're optimizing for organic discoverability. Creative localization and culturalization, which I will show a quick example on the next slide. Ad tracking and attribution, this is also a very touchy subject, but guys like AppsFlyer, Adjust, and Tune can work just fine over there, including Kochava. If you want to work with a local attribution partner, one of the most popular ones out there is Talking Data. And finally, you want to test relevant traffic sources out there. I know we mentioned, you want to work with the right partners. Are they based in China? Do they have global supply? Or are they headquartered in the US or in Europe with some Chinese supply? Finally, community to engage and to inform and to educate your users of any new updates or promotions in the game. So being relevant on Weibo, WeChat, and really engaging with the users because they are very ravenous, as you guys have already known. Finally, live operations. Live operations is a very special element to making a game very successful in any particular region. So one very big example of live operations for us was the 11/11, or the Singles Day promo, where we were able to do a Singles Day crystal, sell that for a very competitive price of 88 RMB, and the users loved it. The revenue purchase rates for that day spiked about 2.5 times the trailing 90-day average. Other promotions that we like to engage in are Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, where we're able to kind of provide or add some nice subtle touches to our creatives to celebrate such a joyful situation. All right. So let's spot the difference over here. These are some screenshots from our App Store comparing the US and the Chinese App Store. So you can see that there are very similar themes, very similar base assets, but they've been touched up a little bit differently to resonate with the Chinese audience. And this is something that we're continuing to optimize, continuing to improve. And it's something that everyone should really pay a little bit more attention to, especially the colors and the fonts. So Marvel and Transformers being very big global IP brands, kind of took a look at some box office sales over the last few years just to see, does this IP, does this property really engage with the Chinese users? Does this even make sense for us to continue acquiring users for a mobile game? So you'll see on the orange line, or the blue bars represent the total box office sales to life, represented by Box Office Mojo. The red line is Chinese sales as a percentage of the blue lines, and the US on orange. So China represents about anywhere from 10 to 20% of global sales at the box office, which is not bad at all. US obviously is the #1 market over there. Now let's look at Transformers, just a little bit of a different chart here. The affinity for Transformers looks like it's a little bit stronger in terms of the box office revenue. So you see over the last few years, China as a percentage of revenue for Transformers has gotten huge. So that IP is quite prevalent out there. My last visit to China, I saw like those Transformers logos like all over people's cars. So I don't know if they really know what it is, but they seem to engage with it. The next thing I want to kind of cover, and this is my last slide, and I'm happy to answer some of the questions later, but kind of looking at creative performance by inventory as kind of, Jeff and Pete kind of, prefaced, there's a lot of different media sources out there. And, it can be very overwhelming. The sizes are all very different than we're used to here in the US. Facebook is more like a 1024 by 768 or something like that. But in China, they got sizes like 591 by 398, 381. It'll drive your creative team crazy. So that's one of the most important things. One of the biggest recommendations I can provide, making sure that you have a robust and nimble creative team. But here, posted these stats from Newzoo. Newsfeed ads tend to have the highest click-through rates relative to some other inventory. While this may not be apples to apples or completely, painting the right picture here, it just goes to show that the prevalence of news apps out in China, they're very, very popular. Just as you've just heard, Toutiao and Tencent News are very popular media sources and very effective ways to target your target audience. But I will tell you from kind of our acquisition efforts, we found a lot of success with video ads, particularly with the video ad networks. I highly recommend video ad networks such as Vungle, Ad Colony, Unity, Chartboost, those folks, because it's a very seamless way to get in front of the user's eyeballs. You don't need to work with any targeting per se. You don't really need any ad copy, which can be very difficult to write if you're not familiar with the culturalization aspects. I highly recommend these global traffic sources because these users are already playing a game, and why not show them an advertisement for them to play another game? So the friction is a lot less in that regard. So that has been our primary driver for acquisition. We are moving more into more targeted acquisition campaigns like on Tencent and Toutiao, where we're going to manage direct in-house, but I will tell you it is very difficult. The competition is very intense. You're competing with the likes of Tencent and NetEase that have very, very deep pockets and can afford $20, $50 CPIs, whereas, more of a casual action fighting game like Marvel, we'll go out of business or I won't have a job if I was paying $50 CPIs for this game. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation up here, but I'm happy to share any other experiences or lessons that we've